recording. How's everybody doing today? Good and tired. Oh, I feel like even though we fell back on the clock, I still feel like it affects you. Like it going back and forth in times, like changing the hours. Because I feel like I don't know. I feel like I end up staying up. I stayed up later on the weekend, and then I don't know. I just like am lacking sleep right now. So hopefully we can get caught up in a week. I don't know. Hi, Ellen. Hello, Anton and Bella and Gabriella and Caitlin and Marjorie and Mason and Talon and Ziona. Hi, guys. Let me give you guys the Pear Deck. Good morning. We're going to be talking today about index fossils. Oh, wait. It says uniformitarianism on there too, but that's going to be next week. So I find that we have so many topics that I'm trying to get to all of them, but index fossils really deserves its own day. So that will be next week. We'll talk about uniformitarianism. Um, okay. All right. Let me move on. So on this picture, today's that was yesterday, right? I think. Yeah, it was yesterday. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, but I did. Oh, you're. So I did get my little I voted sticker and I put it on my shirt. So you do get a little sticker if you go vote. So yes, that was yesterday. In my area, all we had was a levy for the township and some school board. It wasn't a big one, right? Most areas, it was not a really big one. All right. So all right. So here, this is an ammonite and a couple of trilobites here. And here you can see this is like a different species of, or it's a different type of trilobite. There's like many varieties of trilobites. So we'll look at that a little bit. Today is the 5th. Yeah, yesterday was election day on the 4th. It's always like the first Tuesday of November is election day. And then tomorrow are parent teacher conferences. So it will be asynchronous. If you want to, you can take the pre-test. Did you guys all get the pre-test? I sent you guys an email. I was supposed to publish it on Monday, but I forgot. So just try to do that tomorrow when you guys have all asynchronous. Do that tomorrow, the pre-test. Just get it done before Friday because the pre-test will close on Friday. Okay. And that's just because once I've already started teaching you a little bit of it. Hi, Samir. But once I start teaching you a bunch, then I won't know if it's because you've learned it or because you knew it before. So pre-test will close Friday. So I gave you the links today. Hi, Kayla. And just make sure you get it done by Friday. Now, if you don't do it, it'll be excused. But if you do it, you'll get 10 free points, basically. And you get like a preview of what's to come, what we're going to talk about. So I would suggest doing it. Let's see. Hi, Madonna and Nimad and Rashawn. Hi, guys. And Samir. All right. And so Friday, I will probably have a small group at 11 for this group. All right. So don't forget tomorrow, parent teacher conferences. You still need to have 5 hours. All right. Well, let me give you guys the link to the. Did I give you the Pear Deck? Yes, I did. Okay. Based upon your analysis of this fossil record here, this is a fossil in the strata. Determine which two answers below are the best supported by this diagram. So you're going to pick two. Let me mark that. Select two choices, right? And if you look, this is a type of shell there. This is a fish on layer 2. And it's a dinosaur fossil on this layer here. So let me go ahead and put the poll up and see if you can figure out which two are the best options. All right, so just pick two of them. Don't pick 3, don't pick 1, pick 2. Kind of like when you're at a restaurant and you have a pick two. Let's see if anybody got this one. All right, somebody got both of them. Good. Good work. If you answer one, that's fine too. If that's the only answer you're confident about. All right. Hello, Aman, and Lillian, and hello, Juliet. Hi, Kieran, and Gabriella. And hello, John. 3, 2, and 1. I hope everyone had. If you're like, if I'm moving too fast, just send me a private message and say, hey, slow down. All right, because sometimes I'm not sure how long it takes people to answer. Okay. For this one, the best answers were, it shows that the clam species existed before the fish species in this area. So if you look, the oldest layer is at the bottom, right? And then we have the fish, the layer the fish is in, and then we have the dinosaur. All right, so this is the oldest one, and it exists before the layers above it. The next one, it reveals changing environments. 2 aquatic. These 2 are aquatic, and the top one is land. All right, and 1 terrestrial. Now, a lot of people pick C also, but can we determine that there were rapid changes in climate based on these fossils? All right. If it was like over millions of years, that wouldn't be rapid, right? Does that make sense? So yeah, so if it happened over millions of years, that's not rapid. So it's hard to tell from this record here. Also for A, it says the bottom layer formed last. And so always remember, the bottom layer is the oldest one that forms first. All right. Okay, so today, all right, so we're not going to probably get to radiometric dating. So let me cross this one out. How is a fossil's age determined through relative dating and index fossils? Let's see, did I put the wrong one up there? I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, I think it's the right one. All right, so I have a message asking about the parent-teacher conferences. If your parent or guardian would like to have a conference, then they should use the link that Mr. Brooks sent. I don't have a link, so if you do sign up, you'll get the link to join tomorrow if you signed up. So it's not too late to sign up if you want to. So look for the message from Mr. Brooks, and he sent out the information. So I think it's on an email. Did anybody's parent get? Yeah, it was yesterday, Bo. We talked about that. Hello, Bo. So yeah, it was yesterday. It's not. Sometimes election day it's an off year. All right, so it wasn't for president and vice president and senators and all that stuff. Okay, that's all right. We're just getting started. We're actually just going to review. So if your parent wants to sign up for a conference, have them check their communications from Mr. Brooks as far as signing up, because I don't really have all the information. I don't have. I suppose I could send a link if your mom would like to sign up. I can look for the link from him that he sent out. He's the one that sent it. All right, so law of superposition. This is just a little bit of review from Monday. So what this is we have layers, and the bottom layer is the first layer deposited. And so if you look, you can see this was pre-Cambrian, this is Cambrian, Pennsylvanian, and Permian. All right, so we can actually look at the different time periods based on the rock layers. Here's another example. So at the beginning, we just have one rock layer, then we have two, then we have three, then we have four, then we have five. All right, so if you look at this, which layer is the oldest? Where is the oldest rock in this picture? Just kind of put a check mark on the oldest rock in the picture. Good. Good job, Caitlin. And Anton and Kieran. Awesome. Yep. So this is the oldest. Everybody agrees, right? At the very bottom is the oldest, and this is the newest up here. So good job, everyone. That is the first layer. So that would be the oldest back in history. So if we look here, this says Precambrian. This stuff is the oldest. You can also see that this is tilted here. So this would suggest this had some kind of a stress that acted on it. Okay, so the next one is the law of lateral continuity. What this says is this rock extends, like on the Grand Canyon, I'll show you in the next picture. This rock was all once connected here. This part was connected, that part was connected. It's saying laterally it is connected, kind of like a lateral pass. You're throwing it to the side. Side to side, the rocks are they were all once connected. So if we have a cutout because of erosion, we know that across there it is the same. Now, these rocks are actually more similar than these rocks because these happened over time. Like this one might have been 50 million years ago. This one might have been 10 million years ago right here. So this is showing, so all of these are 10 million years old if I go across, but if I go up and down, I'm going back in time. Does that make sense? So there's more variation in a column than there is across because all the stuff across formed at the same time. That's the law of lateral continuity. And you can kind of see it here. So here's the Grand Canyon. You can see this was flat. You can see the line continues across the canyon. And so these layers, this could be 300 million years old from the bottom to the top. So the stuff down here might be 300 million. This would be 300 million, that layer. But then at the top, it's going to be a lot younger. But you can see if I go from here to here, it's going to have less in common than if I were to go across and look at these two layers, this layer here. All right, cross-cutting. We talked about this when we talked about the cupcake. Do you guys remember when I have the cupcake, the filling inside the cupcake appeared after the cupcake if I'm making it right. So I'm going to squeeze the filling into the cupcake and the cake was there before I squeezed the filling in. That's the same thing as the magma here. The magma comes into the faults or between the layers after the layers have already formed. So this is the youngest stuff. This magma, when it forms a rock, let's see, this would be the youngest here. This magma right here. All right, and if I have a fault, that also is younger. All right, if there's a fault that forms, that's just, if you think of a sidewalk that develops a crack in it, the sidewalk has to be there before the crack can develop, right? So the sidewalk has to be there. The rocks have to be here before a crack can go through the rocks. So faults are also younger. So intrusions are younger and faults are younger. Also, if the rocks are folded, that means they were laid down flat, so the fold must have happened afterwards. So an example would be, let me go back to this one. Oh, didn't realize it's so far back. So these are tilted. That means they've been deformed. All right, let me go to this one again. The last thing we talked about was inclusions. So if I have like a little rock, let's say there's a rock in this, little pieces of rock in this rock here, they are older than the rock they're included in, right? All right, I'm going to skip this one for now. All right, scientists estimate Earth is around 4.6 billion years old. So that's 4, 6, and then all those zeros. So they think life first emerged about 3.8 billion years ago. So just if you're thinking about it, what do you think might have been the first organisms on Earth? So let me put the poll here. Just kind of make, there's no right or wrong answer. Just think of, there is a right answer, but just think of what you think. Somebody wrote me. All right. Okay. Yeah, I guess before you were born, you didn't even realize that there was an Earth, did you? Okay. Okay. Good. I'm going to go ahead. Are people still writing? Okay. Oh, I like this one. I didn't say try to think of a humorous answer, guys. I said try to think of what, in your best guess, what was first, you or the Earth. I didn't realize we had so many comedians in this class. All right, let me read some of them. Okay. Someone said grass, something people need to touch. Okay. All right, the next one, sea anemones. They were probably microscopic. That's a very good guess. Okay, that one is a little more. Yeah, someone said me. Someone said seaweed. Someone said I was the first organism. Someone said microbes. And someone said, I think the first organisms were things in the sea life. Yes, that was a good guess. Little organisms like microbes and bacteria. Good. Mainly plants and vegetation. Yeah. So, let's see. Is there another one? My eyes are watering so much I can't read them now. Okay, so if you want to put them in the chat, you can do that too. Didn't have any limbs. Oh yeah, yep. All right, let me go ahead and publish in 3, 2. Someone said trees. Okay, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, good. Those were some good answers there. It made me laugh. So yeah, so scientists believe it was something called a prokaryote or a bacteria. Prokaryote, or like a bacteria or cyanobacteria. Those are hard to read. Okay, let me change all that a little bit. There we go. That's a little easier. So prokaryote is a single-celled organism without a nucleus. All right. So it's just something like a blob, and it's got all its genetic material inside. And we'll talk about how we evolved into eukaryotes. Basically, they think two of the bacteria, one of them ate the other like a little Pac-Man. So imagine this one decided to eat this bacteria, and then it had that bacteria inside, and that's how it got the nucleus. So the first one they think was a prokaryote, and eventually we got a eukaryote because one ate another bacteria. All right, cyanobacteria or bacteria they believe. All right, and so if we go back in time, we'll see that Earth formed about 4.6 billion years ago. So geologists and paleontologists base that on the Earth's rocks. So relative dating, radiometric dating are the two main ways they do this. But we're going to talk more about relative dating today again. We're going to look at how scientists use index fossils to help them determine the dating of the rocks. All right, so organisms appear in some layers and not in others for the fossil record. So these are all the different eons, eras, periods, and epochs here. Kind of interesting. So they chose when to change all of these based on what kind of fossils they found or what events occurred. So it says they were originally based on relative ages because back in the 1800s, scientists couldn't do radiometric dating. And that's basically 1800s is when they did this. So the type of fossils are the main criteria, but then it can also be extinction. So let me zoom in on one of these up here. Might have to zoom out a little bit. There we go. So we got the Phanerozoic eon here. You can see this. And if you look here, you can see this is when Earth was struck by the asteroid that resulted in mass extinction, including all the dinosaurs, or most of the dinosaurs. And then we've got Cretaceous, Jurassic, Triassic, different periods going back. So you can see the types of fossils that were there. There are also the index fossils tend to be the marine fossils, which we'll look at. So, all right, so we go back: Carboniferous, Devonian, Silurian, Ordovician, Cambrian. And you can see the organisms are more simple the further you go back. Like if you look at all these, they're more simple. They become a little more complex as you go up. I know. You're still standing. You're a dinosaur, huh? Yeah, so I said not all the dinosaurs because they believe that birds are descended from dinosaurs. So if that's true, obviously there are some that had to survive. So, all right. So in the same way the geologists use the geologic time scale, it's broken into usable, understandable, and organized segments. So if I find a fossil and I know it was alive in this time period, then I can date the rock to this time period. So that's one thing we're going to look at. All right. And so I want to put it into perspective about geologic time. If I were to take a whole year, all right, pretend like we're taking a whole year and the Big Bang happened on January 1st. The formation of the Earth wouldn't have happened until September 10th. Isn't that kind of crazy? So a full 8-9 months would have gone by in a year before the Earth and solar system formed. Then we had September 25th would be the oldest microfossil. And we have to get all the way to December before we even have the first vertebrates here. The earliest dinosaurs would be on the 26th of December, and the extinction would be on the 30th. So look how small in the time period that they were around. And humans wouldn't be till December 31st, which is kind of crazy to think about. All right, we have a relatively short history on Earth compared to all the other organisms and going back to the Big Bang. We're just like one little tiny blip right now. All right, so based on the geologic time scale, during which era did the Tyrannosaurus go extinct? Now, first, I'm going to zoom a little bit so you can see where the Tyrannosaurus is. We're talking about which era did this one, go extinct. So, whoops, let me pull this down a little bit. Oh, and the era you can see is in this column. All right, let me go back a little bit. All right. All right, let me put the poll up. Which era did the Tyrannosaurus go extinct? Your best friend was a T-Rex. I know. Yeah, some of them were kind of scary, weren't they? So we'll talk about evolution when we get into we'll talk about evolution. It's kind of weird how different things like whales evolved. Whales evolved, they were on land at one time, which is kind of weird to think about. All right, 3, 2, hello, Katie. And Jeff. Hi, Jeff. 3, 2, and 1. All right, for this one, the correct answer was Mesozoic. And then if you look at it, you'll see that it was alive during the Cretaceous period. Now we don't have to know all these. It's just kind of interesting to see. So if you look, this is the Cretaceous. In the spring, and that's when it was alive. In the spring, we will talk about each period. We'll talk about dinosaurs in the Triassic, the Jurassic, and then the Cretaceous. Because a lot of times you think they were all alive at the same time, but they actually weren't. Like they were separated by millions of years, some of them. All right, so how many species do you think became fossils? Like what percentage do you think became fossils? Anybody want to guess what percentage? 75%, you think? Okay, anybody else want to guess? All right, believe it or not, it's estimated less than 10% of all living things became fossils. That's the species. So we only know, so 90% of all species that ever lived are lost to time forever. Isn't that crazy? Yes, you were close, Karen. So 90% of all the animals, don't you wish we could have had field cams back then so we could have seen all these animals? Because it's kind of sad that we'll never know of 90%. So 9 out of 10 animals that existed, we'll never know they existed. So the only way we know about the others is because they formed fossils. So we can learn a lot from fossils, and they're our best clues to the history of life on Earth. So if we hadn't found the first dinosaur fossil, we wouldn't have even known that dinosaurs existed. And I don't even know when the first dinosaur fossil was found. Who knows? It's possible they found them way before, and they could have destroyed some of them, I suppose. Relative dating, it says early geologists, they didn't have a way to do the absolute age of a geological material. So when they saw rock, if they didn't see it form, they didn't know if it was 100 years or 100 million. So what they did was they used relative dating, like we've been talking about, but particularly index fossils would tell them how old different layers were. So let me just zoom in on these little trilobites here. So one thing special about trilobites, there's a lot of different varieties of trilobites, and they were each very distinctive. So if you look, certain species were alive at different times. Like this one was alive during this time. If I find this one in a layer, I know that that layer is older than, say, this layer. Okay, so I can figure out and compare. So another thing, trilobites were all over the world. So they were abundant also. There was a lot of them. They were all over the world. And they had a lot of different types of trilobites. So I could and they were very easy to tell apart. Like this one is easy to tell apart. So I could kind of pinpoint ages based on that. And the only way we know now, so scientists in the past, they got a relative age, but now we can actually date rock samples. If we find this particular fossil, we could do an absolute dating of that, and then we would know how old those particular fossils are. So let me get back out there. So you can see they've got the oldest are at the bottom, and then this is the youngest, this magma intrusion. Okay, so now getting back to index fossils, over on the right, there's like several trilobites. You can see this one has like weird little appendages there. It says, would anybody like to read this one about index fossils? These are the most important points about index fossils. They're fossils that are used to help determine the age of rock layers. So they should be, one, widespread. So we want to find them all over the earth. Two, as abundant, means there's a lot of them. So if we found a location, we should be able to find one if we dug down. Three, they existed for a short period of time. Because if I have a layer in the earth, or like if I pick an area and I find the same fossil in all the layers, let's say it's the same fossil, and it goes all the way to today, let's say this animal lived from 500 million years ago to today, I wouldn't know what the age is, because if I found that somewhere else, I wouldn't be able to tell like how old that layer was, because it was alive 500 million years ago and today. So we want to have it be a short period of time. So let's say this little guy was only alive from like 550 million years ago. So if I know that that one's only alive 550 million years ago, then I can pinpoint. If I find him in a layer, I can say, oh, that layer is 550 million years ago, because that's when he was alive. Does that make sense? So I want to have it only for a short period of time that they were alive. Let me see. Oh, hi, Waylon. All right. So, and the last one is they need to be distinctive. So if I see it, I need to be able to tell them apart. So this little guy obviously looks different than this one, right? So I'm able to tell them apart and I can identify them. Hey there. All right, so trilobites lived about 500 to 600 million years ago. And if they find the trilobites, then they must have been from that time period. So if I find a trilobite, I know it's at least 500 to 600 million years old. And the different species can be used to narrow it down even further. So if I find this in a rock layer, it's possible I could absolute date it with some rock and determine that age of that. All right. All right, so widespread, found all over the earth, abundant, existed for a short period of time, and distinctive. Those are the most important things about index fossils right there. All right, so if we have similar fossils, we can assume they're from approximately they're the same age. All right, so let's say I found some rock here that I was able to get an exact date on that piece of rock, and I know it is 550 million years old. All right, that little piece of rock is 550 million years old. And let's say over here, I don't have any rock that I can date, but I do have the same fossils that are over here, right? So I can figure out that this layer is 550 million years old, even though I didn't have any rocks that I could absolute date in this layer. I could determine, oh, this one's 550 million because I found this rock that I was able to date, and it was had the same fossils in there. So you can see also why it's important that if I have a good index fossil, it has to be widespread all over the world so that I can compare different locations. All right, so I have to have them widespread, not alive for a very long time, because if these were alive in all these layers, I wouldn't be able to determine that this layer was 550 million years old, because all of these would be younger up here. All right, and I need to see a lot of them so I can find them in a lot of places, or in one layer, of course. All right, and so that is why it's kind of important. And here you can see this fossil and this fossil. So these could be in completely different countries here, these layers, or the sites. All right, so scientists find fossils of the same type of ancient sea creature. Let's say it's this little guy, the trilobite. And let's say they found it in both Ohio and Africa, and they know it lived only during a short period of Earth's history. So what does that tell us about the rock layers? Okay, keyword being, what does it tell us about the rock layers in these two places? Let me put the poll up here. So we're trying to figure out what's going on in the rock layers, and what does finding the same little guy, let's say this little guy here, I found the exact same species of trilobite in Ohio and in Africa. And so what does that tell me? It says A is the rocks contain the same amount of minerals. B, the rocks formed under exactly the same environmental conditions. C, the continents were always connected. And D, the rocks formed at the same time. Good. You guys are more awake than my first class. Nobody got this right. I don't know why. But a few of you got it, so that's good. We'll go over this one. Did everybody get a chance to try these? Okay. 3, 2, and 1. All right, so for this one, the best answer was D. Now let's go over why this is, okay? So the question said, what does this tell scientists about the rock layers? All right, so I want to know about the rock layers. And so typically with fossils, I'm trying to figure out what the date is on the rock. So they formed at the same time. So I might be able to tell that they're 500 million years old, right? It looks like some people pick B and C. So exact environmental conditions, it doesn't really tell me that. And this is kind of subjective, right? Exactly the same. I mean, that could just be that it's a water environment. You see what I'm saying? And so some trilobites could live in different types of areas. So if they were widespread, the weather was not the same everywhere. So it wouldn't necessarily mean that. And then the continents were always connected. So this is a sea creature. So if we're looking at Africa and Ohio, even though they had ocean on them, this doesn't necessarily prove the continents were connected, right? Because we could have it like be all over the world. Anyway. All right, so the best answer was they formed at the same time, and so this will tell us how old those rocks were. Okay, we're going to do another paleontology problem. This paleontologist is digging and finds this little trilobite fossil here in a layer. So we've got a sedimentary layer here. This is the layer down here. We found the trilobite fossil. And then let's say he found another fossil here. I'll draw a fossil here. In this, that doesn't look, I was trying to put details on it, but I don't think it's telling me much. All right, so here is the fossil. We'll just say that's the fossil there. All right, and so it's a mystery fossil. And then what can we determine about the mystery fossil that the scientists found? It's in the same layer as the trilobites. Okay, let me put the poll up here. What can we determine? So you're a paleontologist and you found the trilobite. And you know the trilobite was there, and then you found another mystery fossil. Can you imagine what it was like in the past when people were just discovering all this stuff? I can't even imagine. All right. So I don't have a whole lot of people participating in the poll. So even if you're not 100% sure, see if you can figure out. So it says the mystery fossil is older than the trilobite. The mystery fossil is younger than the trilobite fossil. The mystery fossil is about the same age as the trilobite, or nothing can be determined about the mystery fossil. All right, let me go ahead and publish in 3, 2, and 1. All right, looks like 5 people got this one. All right. So the correct answer is, let me change this to green. The mystery fossil is about the same age, right? How did you know it was about the same age? Anybody answer that one? Here's the mystery fossil. It's in the same layer, right? So if it's in the same layer, then I know that it's about the same age, right? What age would it be if it was below the trilobite? Let's say I had the fossil below the trilobite. How would it relate? What would the relative age be compared to the trilobite? It would be older. Good, Kieran. And if it was above, let's say this little guy here, or the ammonite, I would know, what would I know? This line here. So these, the ammonite, if I found that fossil, it would be younger. Good. So this is all going with the idea that we go from the oldest is in the bottom, just like the burger we built. We put the bun on the bottom, then all the patties, and then the lettuce and tomatoes, and the top bun. All right, so bottom is the oldest. That's how they're laid down. So also, if you look, it says no trilobites were found after the end of the Paleozoic. So at the end of the Paleozoic, there was something called like the Great Dying after that. And so there's a mass extinction of like, I think 95% of all the sea creatures. So trilobites were also one of them. And like 3/4, I think, of the land animals. So yeah, so same age, not older, not younger. All right, there is that one. Okay, and so here is an example of a table of a bunch of different index fossils. They had COVID, maybe. Yeah, scientists believe that there was a lot of volcanism or something going on. It either heated up the seas or it did something to the oxygen levels. They aren't really sure exactly what happened. Okay, so if you look here at these index fossils, there's something kind of interesting about what are index fossils. Do you see dinosaurs on here? So each one of these, if you were to find this particular fossil, you would know that that fossil, that layer was in the Jurassic period, for example. All right. Or if you found this guy, this would be in the Ordovician right there. So if you look here, you might notice there aren't any dinosaur fossils, and that is something mainly because dinosaur fossils aren't widespread, right? They aren't abundant. They, this might be true. They existed for a short period of time. They are distinctive, but they aren't widespread or abundant. So they aren't found all over the world, the same ones. And there's not a whole lot of them because dinosaurs do not fossilize well because they tend to if they're not near a water environment, they're not going to fossilize as easily. All of these are going to be marine and water species, like marine. 99% of them were marine fossils, and that's because when they die, they get buried quickly in the ocean. So that's why almost all of our index fossils are marine species. All right, and I have this little guy. Sometimes when you think of these animals, like you don't think of them as being living. I just wanted to show you. This is an ammonite. I wanted to show you how it moves. Kind of interesting. So that was an example of an ammonoid, like how like when you see them, it's hard to visualize that they were once living organisms. And so kind of like a squid-like thing in a shell. All right, kind of cool there. These are some trilobites here. You can see there's all kinds of variations, all these different species of trilobites. Some of them started to form weird little antler things, like little horns. That was because animals started to get fish fish started to get jaws that were stronger, and so they needed to like have more protection. So all of this was because of evolution. So there'd be like a slight change, and if that helped that organism survive, then they would that would be passed on. And we'll talk about that when we get to that. But it's kind of interesting how each of these evolved. Pretty neat. So each one of these would have been alive at a different period in time. And if I found a particular one, how did evolution know? Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? It is all based on natural selection. So if something helped someone survive, so if you think about this, like think about like a grasshopper. I'm gonna not do a good job on this grasshopper, but think about a grasshopper. If they're all green and they're in a desert, birds are going to be able to pick them off, right? So let's say they're in a brown environment, or like they'd be much better in an area with a lot of green, right? Because they could blend in. So if it's green, they can blend in. But if they get in an area with drought, then we might have birds that swoop down and eat them. So if they eat all the grasshoppers, there won't be as many alive, right? But if there's a grasshopper that is more a lighter color, like that matches the ground, then the birds can't see them, right? So if all of these get eaten, this particular one's going to die out, and then we're going to start to have more of this type of grasshopper. Sorry for my horrible drawing. It's not really completely randomized. No, it's based on the environmental conditions, the environmental pressures, that if there's an animal that will eat them because they can't hide. So that's why this little guy developed little horns. There was one of the babies that had tiny little horns, and that helped it survive. And so over time, they can grow bigger and bigger and bigger, right? They developed this shell here to protect them. They can roll up like a little roly-poly and protect themselves from predators. So the stronger their shell, the more likely they were to live. So over millions of generations, they evolved. Kind of crazy. So if we have time, I'll play this, or I'll put it in the module about trilobites. So index fossils can be used to determine the rock layer's age, because the index fossils are fossils of species that, so we can determine the rock layer's age. Why? How can we determine it? I'm going to put this pull up here. This is an ammonite over here, the thing we just saw swimming in the water. All right, so let me go ahead and publish in 3, 2, and 1. Good. So 7 people got this one. They existed for a short period of time. So if this little ammonite was alive, let's say this particular variety was alive 350 million years ago. All right, million years ago, MYA. Then I could determine that that layer was 350 million years. So they have to exist for a short period of time. Good work. All right, so let's try a little example here. It says there are several rock outcrops. So let's say one of them is in like Wyoming, one is in Texas, and let's say this one is in Ireland, and we'll say this one's in Germany. All right. So we've got all these different layers all these different outcrops in all over the world, all right? Large distances between them. Which of the fossils shown is an index fossil? So the way we can determine this are two things. They have to be widespread. So if they're widespread, do you think they'll be in all of these locations or none? Widespread means what? Will they be in all the locations? Yes or no? What do you think? Yeah, so they should be in all of the locations, all right? They also have to be abundant because I have to be able to find them. I don't want to have, like, if they aren't abundant, then probably one of the places they might not be. So I want them to be widespread and abundant, and I want them to only be alive for a short period of time. All right, so what do you think? If I had them in every layer, is that a short period of time? Let's say I had a fossil. I'm just kind of extending here. If I had a fossil in every layer, would that be a short period of time or a long period of time? Oh, hi, Kayla. That'd be a long period of time because that means like 500 million years ago up to present. Let's say this is present day up here. Probably isn't, but okay. So those are the things we're looking for. Widespread, abundant, only a short period of time. See if you can figure out which one is the best index fossil based on that. Now, so you've got A, B, C, or D. So you want them to be widespread and a short period of time. Okay, nobody has this one yet. Okay, there's one person. We'll go over this, and hopefully this will help you guys see what's going on. And I just put arbitrary places at the bottom. This doesn't necessarily mean that's where you'd find them, but let's say I'm looking at these 4 locations that are widespread. Good. So 4 people have it so far. All right, 3. Okay, anybody still working? I'll let you, if you're still working, let me know. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so for this one, I had 5 people that got this one. The correct answer was A, this little guy here. All right. Okay, so let's see where that one is. He's there, there, and there, and there. All right, so that particular fossil, why was that a good one? Was it widespread? Oh, I'm sorry. I think you chose this one, didn't you? I thought you did. Maybe not. So this particular one is widespread because it's in all 4 columns, right? If it was missing in one of them, I wouldn't be able to compare. All right, and it's abundant in, oh, you chose B without thinking. Okay, that's all right. Also widespread, and it's only a short period of time, right? Can everybody see that? Because it's only in one layer. So those are the 2 things that makes that a good one. It's only in one layer here. And so I could pinpoint, if I found a fossil, this fossil next to it, I could pinpoint the age because it's only in one layer. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me go over another one. All right, this one, if we look at this one, what's wrong with this one? Okay, wait, let me go back to this. I've got it here, 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 here. So it's widespread, right? But what's wrong with this particular fossil? Why is it not a good index fossil? Those are all the locations. There's something bad about it. Yeah, it's a long period of time. Excellent, Kieran. So it's alive for a long period of time, so we can't really use that to help us find the date on this one. Good. Okay, so now if we look at this one, what's wrong with this one? It's right here. what? Yeah, it was in all the rows and the columns on this one. So what was wrong with this particular fossil? I only found it in this column. There's something wrong with this group to be a. So it's not. Oops. Oh, you didn't see that it was okay. It's only in one, right? It's not widespread or abundant, okay? And this one is kind of like B. This one is in this, this. You see that? So this one's in a lot of layers too. And it's very common everywhere too. So, all right. And so A was the best choice. Which here? I think I'm going to skip this one. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, let me skip this one. I'm going to go to 41. I wanted to get you guys. All right, right here. The best index fossils are species who live for a blank time, were blank, and were blank. All right, so what do you think on this one? All right, so the options are short or long here. Short or long period of time. Were limited or widespread, and were either rare or abundant. So figure out what should go in those blanks there. And then they were either rare or abundant. All right. I know it's on it, and I'm trying to get through most of the material. I'm gonna go over the last problem. We skipped a couple of problems. You can work on those on your own for 37 through 40. I couldn't get to all those. Oh, you don't have art? Okay, well, we could go back if you want to go back. Oh, he's sick today. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and publish the poll. So we could go back and finish a couple of them. 3, 2, and 1. Good. 6 people got this one. So the best index fossils, they lived for a short period of time. They were widespread, so we found them in lots of places, right? And they were abundant. So obviously, if something is rare, like the dinosaur, if the dinosaur is not very common, then I'm not going to be able to find it everywhere, right? So we want them to be short period of time, widespread, abundant. And the last one was it needs to be recognizable. All right. So if I see this trilobite, I'm going to recognize it. Okay. So I'm going to do, oops, that's not what I wanted. This must not be the same slides. Okay. 43. Let me, wait, that's not 43. I have to figure out where I am on these. Just a second. I must have the wrong set. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see where we are. Some of these are the slides for next week, and I thought we'd get to some of them. I'm awfully, what's the word? There. Oops. Oh gosh. Okay. I was awfully ambitious on thinking we could get through all this. Okay, so if we look at this diagram, it says columns 1 and 2 contain rock layers A, B, C, D, and E, and F. All right, A, B, C, D, E, F. And I'll go back to those other questions for anybody who wants to. We'll go back over those. Both columns were taken from the same dig site at different locations, so maybe a few hundred feet away. Which two layers are approximately the same age? All right, so see if you can figure out on this one. Which two layers are approximately the same age? I think this is an old state test question. I don't know where in my head I thought I could get through two. Well, I try to combine stuff because we only have 2 days a week. Last year we had 5. So I'm trying to combine stuff, but I don't know where in my brain I thought we'd get through 2 different topics. So, all right. All right. So far, I think I have 5 people that got this one. 3, 2, and 1. All right. So if you said C and D, you are correct. All right. So how did you know it was C and D? Why did someone pick C and D? What made you pick those? Yeah, it had the same fossils, right? So because I found the same, let's call these index fossils. I don't know if they are, because I had the same fossils and the same species. I knew that if they were only alive for a short period of time, this would be the same age, and the others don't really line up either. So, all right, good. All right, so let me go back to if you guys want to try. Oops, let me go back to 37. All right, so this is the one we did before. Here's one. It says, which of the fossils is the oldest? I'll just put a poll up here. Which one is the oldest? And then you just put in the letter. Wait, actually, no, wait. I can do A, B, C, D, E, F. All right, so it's either going to be one of these letters. Which fossil is the oldest? See if you can look at the geologic columns. So pretend like this is a different location here. Those are different locations. Which one has the oldest, or which one's the oldest fossil? We have A is the gastropod, B is the trilobite, C is the crinoid, D is a coral, and E is fern, and F is ammonite. Okay, I have 4 people that got this one. All right, 3, 2, and 1. All right, good. So this one, this trilobite was the oldest, right? B, trilobite. So I think in my last class, people had trouble finding it. It was right down here. It's below all of the others. Which one is the youngest here? So if we can line up the layers, do you see which one's just put it in the chat. Which one do you think is the youngest? And this layer's the same. Anybody see which one's the youngest? The crinoid, let's see, the crinoid. Yeah, that's one of them. Yep, the crinoid and the gastropod. But then there's one that's even younger. Yeah, the fern. If you look, the fern out right up here. It's a little bit higher. So yeah, so the fern is younger. All right, so you can look at the different layers and figure out which one's the oldest, which is the oldest is at the bottom, the youngest is going to be at the top. Good work. You're a living fossil. Okay, so this one, Which organisms are the oldest? Would someone like to type it on here? Who would like to type it on here for us? Or I can type it. So just put in the chat which organisms are old. Okay, you want to type? Okay. I will give you the pen. Well, you were right at the top too. That made it even easier. All right, so everybody tell Anton which organisms are the oldest. Put it into the chat. What do you think? Which ones are the oldest? And think about where they would be located if they're the oldest. It's got a key up there. Okay. Anton is putting the first one. What is the second one? You see one person typing. All right. So Anton already has trilobite. What is the other one? You're the oldest. Okay. Ammonite. Thank you, Anton. What about the newest? So the newest would be the most recent. Now, this one's a trick question. All right. So if we look, where are we going to find the youngest organism? Let's see, where do you guys think? Yeah, it's the mammal. Yep. So the mammal is youngest, right? There's the mammal. And the way you can tell is because these two existed in the layer before the mammal. So the mammal is the most recent addition to the fossil record. The plant, I don't know. Let's see, where's the plant? Oh yeah, the plant. But if you look, the plant's all the way down here too, right? So yeah. So it's good. It's fine. So those two, maybe not on those two. All right. Which organisms became extinct before ammonites? So find the ammonites. Which ones became extinct before the ammonites did? Anybody see? All right. You can put it there if you want, Anton. So here are, let's see, where are the ammonites? They are here and here. Which ones became extinct? I don't think anybody's going to answer. So if you want to type it in, you can, Anton. Yep, you got it. Did everybody get that one? Trilobite. So the only place, this one is there, and then nowhere else in the fossil record here. Okay. Last question. Which organisms started to appear at the same time as the dinosaurs? So if you look, here's the dinosaurs. Which other organisms started to appear? Yep, you got it. Does everybody see those? The plants started to appear. Good job. Thank you, Anton. I'll just leave it here since you got those. Yeah, so the plants and dinosaurs, the plants started to appear about the same time. It would probably be a certain type of plant. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. So well, that's good. That's cool. All right. I could share, let's see. I could find a game here if you guys wanted to try a Blooket or something. Or I could play a video. It's up to you guys. Let's see here. All right. Oh, did everybody get the let's see if I can find this one. All right. Would someone like to play a game? I do have a game. That's a cool picture there. Would you guys like to play an index fossil game? Okay, you're going to finish your pretest. All right. Okay, guys, I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and end. So you guys, if you can finish your pretest, that would be great. Let me give you the link. for those of you who want to finish it. There's 10 questions, and obviously you're not going to know all of them, right? Because it's a pre-test. So we'll give you 10 points, and there is the pre-test. What it looks like is this. This is the name of the assignment. So finish that before Friday because it'll close on probably Friday. All right. Okay.